Hi friends, I know some of you have asked for a guide and some tips and anything I have to pass along, so I think I'm going to just put together a little video of my thoughts, some things I learned, and hopefully some useful wisdom. I'll try and break it up into some sections. I'll start with the maybe construction and the printing, anything I found about that, move into assembly, and then probably the painting. And yeah, let's get to it. Alright, so this is my AIM9X Sidewinder I printed. Got the file off Cults 3D. I think I paid about 80 CAD for it. And it came with all the files, a lot of the hardware parts. It's really a lot to look at and quite confusing, but it took me, I started in October, I finished about March. So sort of, what is that, 5 months of doing it part-time. But yeah, it came out great. I'm really happy with it. Sorry about that, my Sonos speaker was blowing up. So I started at the front. Printed the seeker head. So for that, it does actually gimbal. It's all in the thing there. I used, those are PC screws, the black ones. I think they're for motherboards. The little black ones are from my PC build box as well. And for the lens, I used, it's a sport cover for a GoPro I had. See, the batteries are shot and I don't do cool shit anyways, so I don't need a GoPro for. And I was gonna go with the mirrored look, but I didn't want to spend $30 to buy the film off Amazon. I tried to rip it off some old cheap sunglasses I had, but it just kind of tore. So I went for sort of a telescope lens look to it with the little reflector in the middle. So I've 3D printed that part. There's a post in the middle and then the cylinder on the outside. And for some added texture, I put it's hard to tell with the glare, sorry, but it's actually a spring from a hot tub wet head I had to replace. Just to give it kind of a conical, maybe it rotates and gets longer kind of look to it. So that's that. The dome I got off Amazon and I had to cut it. It had a big lip on the bottom, so I got the Dremel out and cut it, and it's actually like the perfect dimension. It could be a bit closer into the lens, but I wasn't sure. I kind of got it right with the first Dremel cut. I didn't want to tempt my luck. I had to make this ring so the inner diameter matches the inner diameter of the globe, and the other part matches the inner diameter of this. So that's glued in, and then this is all standard. For this nose cone, I actually threaded this. These are torque set screws I got off Military Fasteners. Exorbitantly expensive, and thanks to the tariff shenanigans, it was exorbitantly expensive to bring in. So I wouldn't go for that route again. I was happy to pass them on with the extras. The fins, I had a lot of problem getting them to print nicely on the bed. Even now you can see the texture is not quite perfect. I think the actual model, these were all filled, but I either had to fill them and then mask them and paint them, or worry about getting glue on this paint, which shows up every little glue spot, as you can see from there. So I just kind of left it. I don't really mind the spaces. The sides are cool. These are actual rivets I got from aviation maintenance guy of mine. Sorry for the bad camera work. So those are flathead rivets, and I glued them in. And these are just some flathead button screws. These pieces were supposed to be tapered screws, but I couldn't get them. They just weren't in stock, so I had to print these sort of ring spacers around to make them fit nice and flush. And again, these are actually tapped and threaded in just to the plastic. It doesn't have to hold much, but that way I can remove the whole nose assembly or just this nose cone if I have to move it or something. I mean, it's 3 meters long, so getting it in the car or any kind of truck is a bit problematic. I don't really want to just strap it on the roof. I feel like the police might have something to say about that. What else is on the nose here? The water slide transfers. I made those, you just buy the paper and then print them off on it, some clear coat. They don't look great. I'm not happy with the different sort of sheen on them. I think they're all like that. I definitely tried to stencil more than I did print, but definitely on the matte black it doesn't look great. What else we got here? The nose key. This is the seeker. So again, same little PC screws. I actually made these parts, these little lock rings, custom, because the printed files they had didn't really work well. This didn't look like lock rings, I think. This didn't print very well at all. The dark on the dark, but I put it on there anyways. We got one more thing to show you, but I gotta flip it over, so stand by. Okay, so same section, I've just flipped it over now. So you see the, what was that called? Missile channel? Wire harness? Wire harness. is there. There's 8 of these little sections, but one of them is different as far as the print file goes on the actual housing. And it didn't quite fit, so I really had to try and Dremel it out and get it in there. But this is where I used an old ESP32 board I had laying around and actually put that in there rather than printing it. So that looks pretty good to me, I think. And yeah, so careful with these. There's 7 you need, and then one is a different file. It looks like it fits the little circuit board in, but it doesn't fit perfectly. I don't know if I printed it wrong or got them mixed up, but I spent a lot of time fighting with that, trying to get it to fit. Moving back, printed the rings. These are in PLA gold, and I think I printed them, actually sprayed them with some gold so they had a metallic-y look to them. This is the harness. Some of these, the pictures, these were like blanked out. It was just a piece of metal. I'm not sure if the real missile would use this plug or this plug, but I just kind of put both. I thought that looked cool with the white and the black, but that's more painting stuff. Yeah, this is all glued now, so everything here back is never coming apart. This and forward, that can all be threaded off. Yeah, printing the cylinders wasn't bad. Lots of sanding. It didn't come out round at all. Lots of time with the orbital sander. I think I started at maybe 120 grit and I sanded it down to 320, something like that. I tried really hard to get all the seams, but I kind of suck at it. I think I was thinking more drywall skimming and less auto body, which is really what it needed. These little guys here, they're just little, like, strength rings. I would maybe consider putting them on before you assemble the whole body. I did all of the sections and then tried to slide these guys on, and they're really tight. So these guys here, this guy here, for example, I couldn't even get the glue on all the way around because I didn't want to like ruin it and slide it on. And so maybe consider putting those on before you glue all these sections up, or at least slide them over it so you don't have to slide them the whole length, because it was a big pain in the ass. This piece is done. I have pins. My buddy was machine shop made them for me just to slide in and lock the actual rear hanger on, but I haven't got them yet because he lives a bit away. But that piece is printed. I think it's upstairs actually. So ignore that. Moving back, this rear assembly is quite a lot going on. We've got like a body piece, 2 pieces here. This is a separate piece. This is like, the names aren't quite intuitive. There's a new diagram he's listed, but that's way more helpful. This, and then this is 3 layers. Get the outside piece and then an inside piece that slides in all at one. And yeah, there's a plug in there you got to actually put in before you slide it all in. The fins, there's, like, you can see a little crack there. There's a round piece, which is actually hardware. It kind of looks like a pancake with a post sticking out. I couldn't get the hardware here in Canada, so I had to 3D print that file as well. Kind of made like a mushroom-shaped disc with a post, and then I mounted this on the post. And these screws, these torque sets aren't actually doing anything. They just look cool, but it is all glued in place. Other assembly things, I'll put some thought. As far as the construction, it gets pretty big pretty fast, so I think I started with just the seeker section here and this, and then I did the warhead section, which are just these 2 pieces here. And then I did the body in 2s, so I glued like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, so on and so forth together. And then I put them all together sort of in pieces. When it's drying, make sure you stand it up on its back, like on the cylinder pointing up, because it had a tendency to sag, and I think it's still a bit bowed. You can't really tell, but I had to really try and work hard to straighten it out. My missile was pointing left for a bit there. I think that's about it for the printing. I can't think of any other files I had to custom make or fight with too much, other than the ring on the nose. I had to fight with the fitting of the modules in the, oh no, that's the seeker, what is that, detonator? And then a bit of fight back here with the bits and the fins. But yeah, otherwise all went pretty smoothly. So for the paint, I'll show you all the paints I used here. So I used this primer for pretty much everything. Filler sandable primer, worked pretty well. And then this is the gray I ended up going with. I think I got it from Canadian Tire. This is the gloss, and yeah, that worked out great. The inside of the motor parts, I used the whatever called brown bear, another gloss, look good. The flat black stuff like the Seeker head, I use this charcoal chalked kind of ultra matte paint. Yeah, it looks really good as well. Some of the small details need some white. I just had this laying around. That's a gloss white. I think mostly I'll use that on the safe selector. That's really the only thing I know. Gloss black for a few parts that I wanted to cover with the what's that stuff called? The graphite powder. So that put that underneath and then put the graphite powder on. And then anything that needed a clear, I just got a Rust-Oleum's gloss clear. And yeah, all work great. In a minute. But I used a sort of matte black on the nose, and I was trying to get a metallic-y kind of silver on this, so I did a graphene rub on it, using an old makeup sponge and graphene powder, and it didn't really work. It gave it a different texture, which I like, and yeah, so I was kind of going for like a silver, almost chromey look as some of the pictures had, but I couldn't get that to work. So I did the graphene rub, I waxed some clear coat on it, and this section is the only one that has that finish. And yeah, moving back, like I said, I had some gold paint for this I had laying around, which I did on top of the gold printed ring just to give it some kind of metallic-y sheen. I really wanted a bit more, maybe a yellowy look to it, but it actually came out all right. This is a gloss gray I got from Canadian Tire. You've probably already seen which one, and I did that through the whole body, all the way back. The rear fins are the same color as the front because I just thought that looked like it matched in the pictures. And a better look at the rear, all the complicated stuff in there. 3 different pieces, and the inside on some of the pictures had this kind of brown, I guess it's some kind of heat resistant coating with your thrust vectoring vanes in there. But yeah. I didn't end up putting any hardware up in here. I had trouble finding a screw that had a small enough head. So those are just empty, but I don't really think it matters. There's enough detail everywhere else, I can probably skip one. One more thing when you're working on this, print a little stand. So this is just a body piece I cut in half on the slicer and made maybe 120% scale, just so it sits in there. And then these little legs I just glued on so I'd have somewhere to stand. I just don't want it to be resting on the fins. That's pretty much it for paint. It wasn't too bad. My conditions were pretty terrible. I was trying to do it outside in winter, so I had to wait till it wasn't freezing. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Lastly, the decals and some of the details I'll go over. As I said, a lot of these are like water slide transfers I printed off. They didn't work very well on the black. I might try and print some stencils off if I'm doing it next time. Some of them, this one here, I actually made a stencil and printed it off. I kind of like that it's a bit sloppy. I had a problem with the paint there, and it's probably how it would really be. I imagine most Navy people aren't doing this in perfect conditions with levels and lasers either. So that's a stencil. This one here is also a stencil, probably a bit crooked. I think that's a really good look. It's way better than the, oh, I do. It's way better than the decals for all of them. This one here, that one is a transfer I printed. I added some touches. Oops, sorry, I fell down there. This number, like manufacturer, that number's me, and then the date I put on when I sort of finished assembling it, date loaded, 01/26. So we can go in there and actually change those files. And yeah, other details. So the hardware is really the cool thing I did. So like I said, these are actual torque sets from militaryfasteners.com. I got 3 different types. I got these little flatheads. I don't know what the heck that's called, which are here. These ones are tapered head screws, same size as these, but tapered. They don't have the collar on the top. And then these are sort of a like rounded head collar screw. So I used them wherever I could. I think these were on the other one, hex screws, kind of like these. And then these are actual bolts off of helicopters. Again, my buddy with the aviation mechanic has lots of old expired parts that they can't use anymore. So I used those wherever I could. These, it's weird seeing a Robertson head. I needed pancake head screws, which I think is what these are called. And I had them from a sheet metal job I used to do. I had some old extra ones, the right size. I like that it has TFC on it. I think it's Taiwan Fastening Company or something. A shout out to Taiwan, I guess. But that's the only other thing I probably would have done differently is get like a hex head for that or a torque set, but I couldn't find that pancake head. It needs to be really flat with how the print file worked out. He's scratching himself. These no lifts, they didn't work very well. It does include a stencil for that. I'd probably do that next time. I might even do it later if I get ambitious to pull it down and fix it. Like I said, it was just so dreadful spraying outside in winter. Yeah, I went and got this part. So I just have to go pick up the pins and they'll slide in and that'll hold that hanger in place as well. Yeah, I think that's about it. As I said, I'm pretty happy with the work and feel free to ask any questions.